game for investors and the country's economy. Let's break it down. For months, the conversation around the Iraqi dinar has been shifting. We're moving away from short-term speculation and looking at something far more substantial: long-term economic stability. The key players in this new chapter are 10-year contracts, regional trade deals, and Iraq's concerted effort to build a stronger economic foundation for the future. For decades, Iraq's economy has been almost entirely dependent on oil. But we all know oil prices are volatile, and relying on a single resource is risky. That's why the Iraqi government is now pushing for economic diversification, new trade partnerships, and major financial reforms. The goal is simple: create long-term growth through stability, careful planning, and building trust on the global stage. This is where those 10-year trade agreements become so crucial. So what exactly are these 10-year contracts? Think of them as long-term commitments between governments or major corporations. These agreements lock in trade volumes, payment methods, the currencies to be used, and all the legal and financial rules for a full decade. We typically see these in sectors like energy exports, massive infrastructure projects, construction, and manufacturing. For Iraq, signing these contracts sends a powerful message to the world. We have confidence not just in our present, but in our long-term future. Why do these contracts matter so much for the Iraqi dinar? It all comes down to one word: predictability. Predictability is a cornerstone of currency stability. When Iraq signs a 10-year deal, it secures a stable, consistent flow of foreign currency. This strengthens the country's financial reserves and makes it much easier to plan national budgets years in advance. This steady economic environment helps reduce the sudden shocks that can cause currency volatility, which in turn helps stabilize the dinar. Perhaps most importantly, these contracts build global trust. Countries and major corporations do not commit to a decade-long partnership unless they believe the system is reliable and the government is stable. This trust is invaluable. Another major highlight is Iraq's push to expand trade beyond just oil. We're seeing growth in emerging sectors like agriculture, think wheat and dates, as well as petrochemicals, cement, and construction materials. There's also a focus on electricity transit and developing Iraq's role as a transportation and logistics hub. By diversifying its exports, Iraq reduces the immense pressure on the dinar and builds a more balanced, resilient economy. Iraq's geographic location is a huge strategic advantage. It's a natural bridge connecting the Gulf, Europe, and Central Asia. Recent trade talks have heavily focused on regional integration, especially with neighbors like Turkey and the Gulf states. Long-term agreements with these nearby partners cut down on transport costs and make trade far more efficient. These regional contracts often come with structured payment systems, involve local banks, and encourage financial reforms, all of which indirectly support a stronger dinar. Of course, none of this trade can happen without a reliable banking system. Over the past few years, Iraq has been working hard to modernize its banks, align with international financial standards, and improve transparency. Long-term contracts add pressure to keep this momentum going. Why? Because breaking financial rules would destroy international credibility and jeopardize these valuable deals. This pressure helps improve everything from anti-money laundering controls to central bank oversight. A stronger banking framework creates a healthier environment for the dinar to thrive. For those of you watching the dinar, these 10-year contracts should be seen as a long-term positive signal, not a trigger for a quick profit. It's critical to understand this point. Long-term trade agreements do not cause an overnight revaluation. Instead, they lay the essential foundation for future currency strength. Financial markets react much more positively to stability over speculation, and real contracts over rumors. This is why many analysts are now paying more attention to trade news than to day-to-day political headlines. The Iraqi leadership has been clear that economic reform is a long marathon, not a short sprint. Their key goals include reducing the economy's reliance on cash, attracting foreign investment, and expanding the private sector. 10-year contracts fit perfectly into this vision because they demand policy consistency and long-term thinking. Now let's address the big question. Does this guarantee an IQD revaluation? The honest answer is no. Nothing is ever guaranteed. However, these long-term contracts significantly increase economic stability. Stability improves a currency's credibility, And that credibility creates the conditions where monetary adjustments, like a revaluation, become possible. So, while these contracts don't promise a revaluation, they are a massive step toward making Iraq's financial system more mature and structured. Globally, the perception of Iraq is changing. It's increasingly seen as a rebuilding economy, a strategic trade corridor, and a long-term energy partner. This confidence is crucial because a currency's value is based not just on numbers, but on trust. When laws are respected, contracts are honored, and trade flows consistently, that confidence grows, and eventually, it gets reflected in the currency's performance. However, we have to be realistic. Risks still exist. Political instability, bureaucratic hurdles, and regional tensions are still challenges. And despite diversification efforts, the economy remains heavily dependent on oil revenues for now. Long-term contracts help reduce these risks, but they can't eliminate them entirely. That's why it's best to view Iraq's economic journey as a gradual, step-by-step process of progress, not an overnight transformation. So, what should you be focusing on? Instead of chasing daily rumors, it's smarter to watch the real indicators of progress. Keep an eye on trade volume growth, watch for news on banking sector reforms, and pay attention to how contracts are actually being executed, not just announced. Real economic strength is proven through implementation, not just headlines. In conclusion, the growing focus on 10-year contracts and trade expansion represents a foundational shift for Iraq's economy. These agreements are a sign that the country is planning for long-term sustainability. For the Iraqi dinar, this means a stronger economic base, improved financial discipline, and growing international trust. While no single contract can revalue a currency overnight, a consistent strategy of long-term trade can absolutely reshape a nation's economic future. The story of the Iraqi dinar is evolving. It's becoming less about speculation and much more about structure, trade, and time. Thanks for watching. If you found this update helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. We'll see you next time on Iraqi Dinar Alert.